Okay, let's go ahead and get started there, everybody. Welcome back to the next portion of the stream where I'm trying to work on learning as much as I can about the Terraria modding and eventually building to a point where I can um, see if I can actually get a mod that I thought of um, to be completely built and usable. It's going to be a little rough though, because unfortunately, so far, a lot of the tutorials that I've been seeing either like, well, okay, like there's been like one tutorial that kind of showed you how to like set up a tutorial sword, you know, uh, I mean, you can see it right there, and on the screen, you can kind of build a sword and how much it can take to make it, and what you need to use, and so on and so forth, and it's all fairly ex- you know self-explanatory. The problem is that so far this has been like the only tutorial that like you know like there well I mean there was like one or two that went into like projectiles, but and by the end of the day these are things that I don't necessarily need. um like I'm not building any weapon or anything along those lines. I'm just the idea that the mod that I want to do is a user interface, for the player, a tech tree in a sense. Um, so learning how to swing a sword, projectiles, getting projectiles to work with your projectile weapon. I mean, that's all well and good, but it's not the focus that I want to go in. It's not the direction that I want to go in. So, um, so right now, I'm trying to look at other information to see if I can get, more out of it, and kind of get an idea as to what, um, how to go about modding Terraria a little bit more. Because, well, while this is interesting in that, it definitely shows like, hey, you got your set defaults and add recipes and how to go about doing that. Um, that doesn't necessarily help me with the like a user interface. And when does it show and how does it show it and so on and so forth, right? Um, you know, for example, you know, last time I figured, hey, um, I wanted to see what the screen position was all about. So if you, um, so before we were at the basic coordinates guide, right? And, I saw these screen coordinates and I saw the drawing tiles, right? And I'm like, okay, this might be very helpful for user interface standpoint because I might need to know, you know, um, where the if I'm like building a user interface, I'm gonna need to know where it's, you know, how's it being shown on the screen, right? Now, um, I thought, um, maybe if the screen position is along the lines of, um, like you have the map, right? And you can have a number on the far left being 0 and on the far right being like, 1000 or something like that, right? Um, I thought to myself, well, maybe the scale of the item will change based off of where the player is on the screen. So if like they ran all the way off to the left, I was thinking, maybe it'll just change the scale of the weapon to that 0 number. Okay. But then I was like going, okay, well, the problem is that this is set defaults for one thing. It doesn't automatically, it might be like a one and done. It gets the information once and no longer changes it. So when I um, when I come into the game for the very first time, it may take that screen position of being like in the thousands, for being like direct center of the game, and put it at the item scale, and done. Can't really do any more. Okay, it doesn't update the scale. That was actually I'm not really showing you the code that I'm kind of talking about. And it takes the screen position once, puts it to the scale, and it can't go any further than that. It just it's done. Okay. Um, being a set default. So it may be um, that I may need to have um, I may need to look at more how to update the tooltips, which, I was looking at this because, okay, so, the screen position X and the Y position are floating numbers, right? And hence the reason why I was like, on, okay, maybe I can just kind of like change the scale because the scale is also a floating number or a float. Um, so, um, so I figured, maybe I can do that and it can change the scale, right? Um, but I wasn't updating it. I went all the way to the left, I went all the way to the right, wasn't really seeing any kind of major changes um, to the item scale. So, so the uh, okay. Sorry, I'm looking at um, Kirito's messages here. Um, hmm, okay. All right. Got caught up there. Um, he's recounting a story from his past. So, um, all right. But how are we gonna see the screen position? And does it change based off of the position in the map, right? So, here, let me go to um, first off, let me make sure that um, actually, let me enable that one again. All right, let me bring up the game here. So we're going to go into our mod loader, right? And you know, Oh, right. I haven't changed the scale yet. It's still at the same one. Here, hold on. Let's fix that. We haven't built and reloaded, so there's that. And all right, better. So our scale's back down to normal, right? So, you know, so I went, all the way to the left. I went all the way to the right. But I don't really know. Um, there wasn't any change on the overall scale, right? So, when I was going this way, or that way, there wasn't any change. Now, like I mentioned before, um, the default code here, the set defaults could be a one and done. It sets it once, um, but um, that's it. I can't do anymore. Okay. Um, so if it is a set once and you're done, then my idea of changing the item scale for the position won't necessarily work. So I need another idea behind it, which means I would need something that could potentially um, change over time and maybe display it over time. So, you know, so I'm thinking maybe I can go to this tooltip line and see if I can maybe use that as a potential. So, um, so um, let's go to um, the class for tooltip line and see what we can see. So there's the tooltip line. This class serves as a way to store information about a line of tooltip for an item. You will create and manipulate objects of this class if you use the modify tooltips hook. All right. Inherited from drawable tooltip line. Um, all right, so now, hmm. Now, I'm not quite sure where I can necessarily put this right at the moment. Um, because I don't think I can kind of use this in the um, you know, I'm not sure if I can really use this inside the tutorial sword. Um, I'm not sure I can do that there. I might need to go to tutorial mods for this. Um, so, hmm. Let's see. Yeah, that's pretty much a rough thing to do there, Kirito, to try to go back out on the court um with a rough ankle like that. You probably could have damaged your foot even more if you weren't careful. And but yeah, but I mean, your doctor gave you a talking to, so you already know. And I wouldn't necessarily call that tough because um sorry to say, but um putting yourself in harm's way um you know uh you know at the well, okay. Um you know a team needs to be able to work on itself even if like their strongest players grounded, right? You know, um, and they need to learn more about themselves to be able to, um, or at the very least, be able to like hold their ground at the very least, right? You know, obviously, some people have a little bit more talent when it comes to athletics than others. Okay. I'm not gonna say, everybody's equal. No, that's not really great. Um, but a team has to kind of learn how to, work, you know, um, you know, allow themselves to build themselves up into something that, can be, you know, like a better team. Might not necessarily be the best team, because if they're like star players out or something along those lines, then obviously, you're going to see a little bit of a dip in capability. But the thing is that that team needs to kind of learn to, be better themselves so that, if their star player is out, then the kind of the team itself is meant to try to should be able to kind of still take up the slack, right? Um, no matter what. So, um, going out on you know, an injured foot, injured leg, whatever, right? You know, you're just hurting yourself in the long run, which you found out. Um, so yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, um, you got to be careful with, every athlete needs to be careful with their own, you know, um, if they want a career later down the line, right? If they want a career in that athletic field, they basically have to, treat their body like it's a temple. So if if you get hurt, you need the time to let your body heal, you know. Otherwise, you're just damaging your body further and, causing irreparable harm that will basically kind of end any kind of athletic career in the future, right? Um, so, um, you know, um, interesting that you kind of bring this up because I just watched a video earlier today about a basketball, DeFranco. He tries to bring up news from time to time of various, you know, topics from time to time. And the one topic that he brought up was an athlete that basketball athlete that um, he's currently like suing the police department because um, he was saying that because they clubbed, they batoned his knee, it basically fucked up his knee to the point where he can no longer play again. And while he might not have been like in the NBA or something along those lines, he was still making a living off of the um he was like in the um he was in the D League or something like that. I forget exactly where he was. Um so because the police had batoned his knee, he was out of work at that point. He couldn't necessarily play basketball because they fucked up his knee so badly. Or at least that's why he's kind of suing the police department anyway. Now, this, you'll have to kind of form your own conclusions on that. I'm going to kind of stay neutral about it because um, the circumstances that led him to the situation was his fault. In the fact that he got drunk, he tried to drive home, which again is that's not great, and he parked on the side of the road and was trying to sleep it off. Um, so already, red flags there, right? Now, um, I will say, I watched a little bit of the police cam footage on that, and I didn't like the idea that the police, opened up his door and pulled him out of the car while he was still asleep. So that that I feel was probably that right there wasn't the smartest move in my opinion because he was still asleep and he probably was still out, still drunk. Who knows? So sleepiness plus being drunk and waking up to some people trying to put him in cuffs, that would freak anybody out. So, um, so I feel like the police probably could have done a better job at handling that situation. What happens after that? Again, I don't know. That's something for them to work out, figure out. You know, um, I really have no stake in the matter whatsoever. Let the um, let that particular athlete and the police department figure out through the court system what happens. You know, um, but I mean, at the end of the day, that athlete had his knee hit with a baton, probably at the back of the knees to try to knock to you know, basically get him to the ground to continue trying to um, cuff the guy or whatever. Again, I don't know. I don't know all the details. The Franco did kind of cut off the video early, but that's fine. Again, I have no stake in the matter one way or another about it. Um, but I mean that's right. That right there is like one of those things where it's like that man's choice to get drunk, park on the side of the road, and well, I mean, he basically DUI'd. You know, that was his decision, and he made a very unfortunate decision on that one. You know, um, and that, in a sense, that decision right there basically costed him his career. So, um, yeah. Um, yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, if you're anywhere in the athletic, field, you have to kind of be careful with how you handle your circumstances. So, um, I'll give you an example of my own, right? You know, when I was in elementary school, I loved playing soccer. Um, I wasn't like super great at it. I was no uh, Beckham or anything along those lines. I wouldn't necessarily call myself, um, super talented by any standard. Um, but I still enjoyed playing the game, right? But my feet would swell up after every game. Would make trying to get my cleats off my feet really painful. Really, really, it was really difficult to get my cleats off after every soccer match. And we went to the doctor, and they were like, "On, oh yeah, it's probably because of." I forget exactly what he said. It's been so long ago. So it was either like not enough blood was getting to my feet, or too much blood was getting to the feet, or something like that. I don't really know. But either way, he was like, "On, we'll just give him some heel lifts. Um, he's gonna have to, Jim is gonna have to um, limit the amount of physical activity, the amount of running that he does, because this is gonna just keep on occurring, for a while. But it might go away in about 5 to 10 years." And it's like, okay, 5 to 10 years, 5 to 10 years of being unable to do any kind of sports whatsoever is pretty much like a death sentence. You can't really do anything more after that, especially if it doesn't go away after 10 years. And guess what? It's never gone away. From what I could tell, from what I could figure, the doctor was probably thinking that, hey, 5 to 10 years from now, like he's really super thin right now, but 5 to 10 years from now, he's probably going to bulk out some, and he's probably going to be able to get some more fat down in his foot, and that won't be a problem anymore, blah, 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 right? Or at least that was his thinking. Nope. I've always been super thin, so, um, super high metabolism that, you know, is pretty much the envy for a lot of people, I'm sure, um, but yeah, that condition has never gone away. Any kind of running or extended physical where I'm even walking a long distance, my feet would just kind of start like swelling up or something like that. I need some shoes with like really good, um, heels to them to offer a lot of good cushioning. And unfortunately, I don't really find that too much nowadays, but oh well. But um, when the doctor told me that, I was like going, okay, well, I could either, you know, try to keep on doing the soccer, even though the doctor was like, hey, you can't really do this anymore. I'm like, okay. Um, I could either, keep on trying to do that, but who knows what might have happened. Like if it kept on going and like if it was like, hey, um my feet would just keep on swelling up every single match. I mean, what would happen in the long run in that, right? Like if my feet just kept on swelling up every single time, then like what damage would be happening to my feet if I kept on doing that? Um, I don't even think the doctor even knew, to be honest, what would have happened. But he probably would have said, you're gonna be harming your feet either way. So, um, so yeah, it's just one of those things where it's like, you know, um, if you're trying to be anything athletic, you have to be really really careful with your body. Otherwise, you're just gonna, um, you might cause additional harm to yourself. So, just wanted to play. Oh yeah, I hear you, man. I hear you. It kind of sucked when, I got the news for my own condition as well. So, um, cousin is 7 foot tall. That is very, very tall, my friend. Yeah. I got very tall myself from my mom's side of things, and yeah. All right. Sorry, got sidetracked there. Let's focus on trying to see if I can get the tip line into the tutorial mod here a little bit. And let's see if I can get, um, like maybe I can see if there's a way to, um, see if there's like some form of, refresh that I can put into this particular mod so that, you know, um, so I can see, um, what I can, add in here, right? So, so first off, let's see. Let me look at the browser information here. Um, okay. Mod is an abstract class that you override, which is what I'm kind of doing on the code. It serves as a central place for which mods contents are stored, provides methods for you to use or override. So, um, so, uh, call this to manually add a content instance of the specified type with a parentheses constructor into the game. I don't know about that one. Is it used for weak intermod communication? This allows you to interact with other mods without having to reference their types or namespaces, provided that they have implemented this method. Hmm. Okay, so I might need to do this to get information from other weapons, from the Calamity mod, potentially. Um, so, if I want to make a um, if I want to make um, a tech tree that uses the weapons, then most likely I'm gonna need to, call, the mods that are out there to see whether or not I can actually build that. Uh, this might be a little bit more of an major undertaking than what I'm initially thinking. Hmm. All right. Um. File names, get file stream, get mobilization, handle packet, load. Override this method to run code after all content has been auto-loaded. Here, additional content can be manually loaded and mod-wide tasks and setup can be done. For organization, it may be more suitable to split some things into various mod type .load methods, such as in the mod system classes, instead of doing everything here. Beware that mod content has not finished loading here. Things like mod content lookup tables or ID sets are not fully populated. Use post setup content for any logic that needs to act on all content being fully loaded. Okay, so this might be useful, but like they were kind of talking about before, the mod system classes or the mod content, for the tutorial sword, for example, like the mod item might have like a load for it as well. So, or, let me, you know, the mod item here might have a load, associated with it as well. So yeah, I don't know if there's really anything here in the mod abstract class that I can really um, do to get the screen position. Like, I'm not necessarily seeing anything that like automatically screams to me like, hey, I can use this to potentially call these, uh, way to kind of get information after a certain point of time on um, on a screen position right at this moment. So yeah, let us go to the mod item and let us see if there, one is if there's like a load. Um, there's a load data, but that's not the same. Hmm. Okay, so there's the load. Um, Don't think I really need this one per se, but um, let's see. Hmm. The update might be kind of what I'm looking for. Like I can try to do the like update inventory, you know, call, and then put the tooltip inside there to try to update the tooltip potentially. You know, we'll hold off on that for right now. Um, we've already done the set defaults. And most likely this is most likely, that they're not going to have this done like multiple times. So, um, hmm, if there was something here that it says like, update tooltips or something like that, then that might be helpful. Hold item might be good. Hmm. Here, let's do the let me bring the code back out. So, um, you can do the hold item, as a potential, you know, um, for something that I could potentially do. Let's see. Uh, load data wouldn't necessarily work. I don't necessarily want to do anything with that. Nothing for melee effects. Don't really want to modify that. Here we go. This might be something that I can potentially use if I'm changing the scale based off of you know um, similar to the effect of the tagging of. Well, here's the thing: if I can, I could. you know, going back here, um, you know, we could do, public override. It's a void. Modify item scale. And then we can basically say, okay, well, the scale is going to be equal to the main dot screen position dot x, and then send that up, you know, into the class, and that we might have a chance of like having a different value for the scale potentially. Again, I don't know if how well this may or may not work, but I mean, um, I want to see whether or not I can actually get this to change, right? So, um, let's see. Do not modify the item scale. So when I was messing with the item scale before, it's like, hey, wait, no, you wanted to use this function. So my code earlier for this was not exactly great. They were like going, nope, nope, you don't want to do that. Um, so okay. So that's an option. Just to see if I can see what happens based off of the position, right? Potentially. Um, um, hmm. Okay, we can also try to see about modifying the tooltips as well. So here, let me show the code again. So, we could do public override void modify tooltips, and then we could do tooltips dot text. Ooh, wait, no, apparently it doesn't like that. Um, hmm. Okay. Okay, well, let's see. Hmm. Interesting that, I'm not able to see text as a parameter right at this moment in time. I would have figured that I would have been able to reference it directly like that, but I guess not. Um, oh, it's part of the list. Ooh, right. That's right. So I would actually have to try to find the tooltip referring to this particular sword in that list. And that's where things are probably going to get a little interesting on that. Um, because I'm not quite sure exactly where it's being stored at. Like there could be a large list of tooltips being saved, you know. So I don't know how vast this list is. So like, this right here isn't gonna really give me anything, you know. Um, this is information from the tooltips and stuff like that, but it's not gonna give me um the value or where I can find this particular tooltip out of it all. So, um, hmm. I might be making this a lot more difficult than what I really need to. But at the same time, um, I might need to do this anyway in the future. So, well, maybe not so much this per se. Um, but I mean, it's going to be helpful to understand, what I might be dealing with, you know, uh, further down the further down the line, right? So, um, hmm, as you can see, there's quite a bit of information here. Hmm. Let's see, hold on. Okay. Yeah, Spider-Man 2 for PS5. Why do so many people hate the game? And most people see hate the game as people who skip Spider-Man 2012 and Miles and wonder why the story don't make sense. Hard to say, man. You can never really know. I mean, you can probably find people that have like maybe done some actual analysis on it and said like, hey, these are the reasons why I didn't really like the game, right? Um, like for example, I did a review of Subnautica Below Zero when I was playing through it, right? And then at the very end of the game, I just kind of broke down everything that I did not like about Below Zero, kind of put it up on like a little document and stuff like that, showed everything that I had issues with. And, you know, some people might go, well, your opinion is trash or something like that. Why the hell are you even, hating on this game? Blah, 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 or something like that. But at least, I was able to like put out my reasoning behind it. Um, you know, some might actually have something along those lines, or might like talk about like the game during the gameplay and stuff like that. Might be able to kind of give you some form of reasoning behind their dislike for the game, right? Some might just say like, "Hey, I just don't like the controls or something like that," and leave it at that. you know, and you're not going to get anything more along those lines. Um, then there might be some people, um, you know, like um, that might just not like how the story revolves around Miles, maybe. I mean, there's those individuals out there that, you know, um, unfortunately can't necessarily get past the skin color. So, I mean, there's that. I'm not saying that everybody does that. I'm just saying, you might have people that have that kind of very bad take. Um, so I hope that's not the case. But I mean, in today's society, um, you never know who's, you know, until they actually show themselves for being racist bastards, you can't really, you don't really know. Like, for example, um, I knew these two guys that were back in community college. Um, was in the physics class with them and studied quite often with them. about the material in our physics class because it was a really difficult course. Um, and one evening, they had a little too much to drink and started spouting off. Now I don't drink, or at least, um, you know, I hate the taste of alcohol. So I've had a drink or two, but I've hated it. I've hated it every single time that I drank some different kind of alcohol, and it's like, yikes, this sucks. I don't really enjoy drinking this. I'd rather have my soda. I'd rather have water. I'd rather have. I mean, hell, I'll take Kool-Aid um over alcoholic drinks nowadays, right? I just don't like it. Um, the so one night we were at a party, we were doing a party for like, kind of finishing off the class. We were kind of having a like a little bit of a end of the semester party session, and they went off, going off on a really racist diatribe, and yeah, they showed their true colors at that point, and I'm like, going, ooh, okay, can't really associate with you anymore. You guys just completely, showed everything about yourselves by being very unhinged with after getting yourself so wasted that you're saying whatever is coming to your mind, and well, that's not exactly great. So, so yeah, it's a bit rough. Oh, I roll my eyes at the people that are like going, "Oh my God, it's too woke." It's like, "Oh my God." They it's so idiotic because it's like there's a lot of people that are just trying to live their lives, right? You know, sorry if, for anybody that might be wanting to kind of get into the code. I know. Little side tangent, obviously. Um, I'm tired of these people that are like going, "Oh my God, too woke, too woke, too woke." It's like you do know that some of these people are just trying to have normal everyday lives. They don't want to have, some people just want to live their lives the way they want to without anybody coming in and, getting in their face for wanting to just exist, you know? Like, anybody that's gay, it's like these individuals want to live their lives loving the people that they want to love without someone kind of coming in and going, you know, it's against the Bible. It's like, okay, fine. I'm not destroying your life for doing what I want to do. If God wants to destroy, send me off to hell for being gay or something like that, then great. I'll deal with the circumstances, you know, later down in my life. I have friends that have, you know, kind of dealt with that crap. Um, you know, it's like, I wish guys like myself that, it's like, hey, heterosexual males, great, um, you know, I enjoy the beauty of women, that's perfectly fine. I have no right to say to any of my gay friends, hey, you can't be like that. It's like bullshit. They want to live their own lives, you know. why would I, you know, it's like it's just it's stupid mindset. It's just absolutely dumb mindset, you know. And it's one of those reasons why I don't, you know, like, you know, I'm one to say, hey, you love your religion, that's perfectly fine. That's great. But don't push it into other people's faces. If they want to join your particular religion, that's great. You know, be there to support them, to allow for them to join your particular religion. You know, but don't go into their face. Don't go into their face and say, you're going to hell. It's like, congratulations, you just lost a potential supporter in the future because you're being too negative along those lines. So yeah, it's ugh, terrible. Hmm. I remember when Phantom Menace was a thing, and after 3 years, Star Wars fans finally had enough and blacklisted and kicked out them out. Now Star Wars fandom is finally getting back to normal. Well, I don't know about that. Um, I don't I don't like Star Wars Episode 7, 8, and 9 because the story was messed. Disney got a long way go for Star Wars writing for the East, but TV shows and games they done great in. Well, I've had my problems with Star Wars, um, but here's the thing. Um, um, Now here's what I will say. Okay, I don't like when people try to push too far. You know, to the point where they themselves are being too toxic, right? So the idea of, hey, we need to make strong women and make the men look like fools. It's like Princess Leia is a strong woman. She made men look like fools just because of who she was, being a good leader. You don't need to make a woman look tough or a leader. Just have them act naturally. You know, they will have that leadership. They will have that quality. You know, you can have that kind of, you know, you can have a woman super soldier if you really wanted to. You know, you've done it in the past. You don't need to take it too far to the extreme to like potentially alienate others for that. Um, so I don't know. That's been, you know, um, and unfortunately, you know, Star Wars has kind of Star Wars, Disney, Marvel has kind of gone along those lines. You know, in some ways a lot. And it's like, you know, you don't need to do that because you can still have really strong women to do the job that you want them to do. Just have them act naturally, and you can still pull it off. You know, um, um, I can name, multiple female characters that have been, strong characters, strong, warrior leader type characters in the past, and you know, so you don't need to take it to the extreme to where you're making the female be, you know, super, like a Superman kind of female, and make all the males look like idiots. Because you're basically alienating all the men that might actually be wanting to watch your show. You know, if you're calling all men idiots, then it's like, well, congratulations. I don't really want to watch your show. You've basically kind of alienating 50% of your viewer base if you're trying to do something like that. So, you know, people that might have actually wanted to watch your show if you didn't do that. you know, so it's just one of those things. You know. Okay. Sorry. Uh, okay. So display name. Okay. So that didn't really work out the way I wanted it to. It's having a problem with that. Hmm. Let's see. I don't know if I'm going to be able to do this or not. I'm not all that familiar with predicate right at this moment in time. Well, okay. I feel like Disney could, they have the money, they have the funds, and they have the manpower to, you know, to work with both Star Wars and Marvel. Okay, if they do it right. The problem is that they have a lot of people up in the higher echelons that are either A, putting their own viewpoints into the story and kind of screwing up the storyline, not letting the writers, do what they want to do, um, or they are, or they're hiring writers that are, trying to do these um, very, um, these kind of toxic storylines that are like, um, only women are great and men are terrible storylines, and it's like you do know that you're putting your own bias into a storyline that doesn't need it, you know. So, so I feel like that they can kind of they can do the and they can work together, or they can have the right kind of divisions separated out to kind of handle everything that they need to handle properly if they have the right kind of staff. It's just nowadays, there's been some concerns about that. you know. And that's and that's why a lot of people are like, a lot of people are going, oh my God, Disney is too woke. They're basically seeing the fact that you know. Okay, so think of it this way: their toxicity, you know, their women need to be in the kitchen, kind of toxicity, stupidity, has gone so far into that toxicity that you have a natural reaction. You have an effect of them being very, very toxic to, the female portion, here in the States. And you have a reaction of that to where people are doing you know, in a sense, the exact same thing, but in reverse, right? Um, and, now the people that were originally being toxic are going, oh my God, Disney's too woke. Well, it's your own stupidity that caused that, you know. Um, because you didn't necessarily respect, women to begin with. You know, you have men out there that are still looking at women as property, in various parts of the world, even here in the States for some stupid reason. Um, you have people that are thinking along those lines, and that's why it's and because you have that kind of stupid mindset, you have an exact reaction to it where they're like going, okay, well, these men, men are stupid. And it's like all the rest of the men are like going, no, no, these guys are stupid. We're fine. You don't need to go to the extreme. Please come back from that extreme. You don't need to go into that extreme. Pull it back. You're going too far. You know. Um. So yeah. Okay. Let me look up what predicate is all about. C sharp predicate. Predicate is a function that returns true or false. A predicate delegate is a reference to a predicate. Okay. um, okay. A delegate is reference to a predicate, which is a function. Okay. So basically, a predicate delegate is a reference to a function that returns true or false. Predicates are very useful for filtering a list of values. Here's an example. So, um, okay, um, so you have okay. Let me show what I'm looking at right at this moment in time. Stack Overflow. So they created a list of values, which the tooltips are a list of tooltips in there. So you have like multiple different tooltips that have various values contained within them, right? And then you um, generate a predicate, which you're basically putting in the function greater than 2, which is taking an argument, you know, in here, which is basically taking the values that you find in here, going into this function here to see whether or not the argument of say 1, 2, and 3 is greater than 2, and then it returns that um, you know, and basically creates a brand new list with everything that they found to be true out of it all, right? So, um, so basically they go, hey, is 1 greater than 2? No. So it returns false. Okay. Um, then, um, we're finding all using the predicate, using the function, using the list. Um, and it looks, at 2, sees that that also is not greater than, so that one is also false. And then you have 3, that will return true on this. So you eventually build a list where it's just the 3 out of it all. So um, now if you're using C sharp 3, you can use a lambda to represent the predicate in a cleaner fashion. Um, where you're finding all I, you know, you're going to something greater than 2 there, and, you know, we'll try to, find all of the values in here to see whether or not it can work. So, um, so yeah. Okay. So if that's the case, then we're trying to find the match using a predicate. So maybe I can do the exact same thing as the example before, where I could basically state, you know, well here, let me go back to the Stack Overflow, right? So I is automatically being referenced as an integer in this one, right? You know, that's what, how lambda kind of functions for the most part. So it takes the value in the list, puts it into the I value there, and checks to see whether or not it's greater than 2. Okay, and then then great. Um, so um, so I can try to do the exact same thing here. And we don't necessarily want to find all, we just want to find the 1, right? So, so what I could do is I could do, um, um, so I can basically say like, I need a, uh, something to kind of be used as the tooltip line, right? So I can just say, weapon tip line is equal to weapon tip line dot text is equals the tutorial sword. And then um, so we can do Trying to do this every single time, though, isn't exactly ideal. Okay. Um, so um, let me put it this way. I don't know how often modified tooltips will get updated. Okay, it might try to do it every single frame, right? So here's the problem with what I'm doing right at this moment in time. It's going to look through all the possible, you know, it's going to look through this entire list. And I don't know how large this list is. Okay, this list could be extremely large based off of the amount of tooltips that could be within this game, just by itself, right? So, um, now I'm not saying that it's going to be like, in the millions or anything along those lines, but, thousands. And if it does this every frame, if it tries to do this modified tooltips every single frame, yikes, not exactly ideal, right? So, um, so what we could try to do is, we can try to maybe create um, like a reference to the tooltip in a sense, so that we can just kind of send it in with a change every single time, right? Um, mm, but at the same time, it might have a little bit of a problem because the list may change as well as the position in said list. Ooh. Again, not well. Okay, let me put it this way. Um, in the background, the tooltip, the tooltip line, the list there might be a point where I might need to um, um, the position of where that tooltip for the My Tutorial Sword might might change. Okay, potentially, maybe. Um, I don't know exactly what might happen to said list. Now, one would hope that the position will remain the same. The memory location will remain the same so that you can just kind of reference it and, be able to go back to that particular memory location to see all the information contained in there and be able to access it at any point, right? Um, but here's the thing. Um, the because I don't know when this occurs or how often it occurs, um, trying to search for this every single time might be quite um, cost inefficient. So, here, let me put it this way. So I could have, um, let's see, I can do, um, well, actually, hold on. So let's say, we find the tooltip in question, right? So now, um, maybe we want to modify the text, right? So let's modify it to the main screen position X, right? Um, let's see. Um, but actually, let's see. We want um, my first sword. Um, and then X chord, and then we do that, and then we do this, and then it will put the tooltips back in there to modify, potentially. Um, but this, the fact that it's trying to search every single time, and again, I don't know how often this gets, this tries to update, you know, I don't know. I don't know how often, does it bring up the tooltip whenever I, hover over it, so it will, show that, it will check out the modified tooltip whenever I hover over the weapon in this particular case to see whether or not it um, will show the modified tooltip. I don't really know. But for the most part, let's go ahead and um, before we end our coding session, because I need to switch on over to Warframe here in just a little bit. I'm gonna kind of comment out these individual um, functions right now. We're gonna check to see whether or not this even works, to be honest, and how damaging it might be to the game if I was to ever do something like that. It's like how often would it call the modified tooltips, right? So, so we've gotten everything pretty much saved. So, don't really see anything else here. So we're going to go ahead and switch on over to the game here. We're going to develop mods, build and reload. Now we'll go back into the game here. And let's see. There it is. My first sword X coordinate 66 66,504. So object reference not set to an instance of this object. Ooh, yikes. That's not great. So this one is working just fine. This one is not. So I wonder. Hmm. Okay. So if I was to go over here, does this change? It does. Okay. Now, aha. And it updates it automatically every single time that I move. So, so if I was to get this, you know, um, hmm, I wonder. Okay, so, I don't know if I'm going to be getting all the way over to the, um, over to 0 um, for the tooltip. Like, I don't know whether or not that's going to allow for, um, you know, uh, what I'm going to be kind of seeing there a little bit. So, or, what I'm going to be able to, um, um, you know, um, I'll to see, does the x coordinate go all the way down to 0 on the far left or not? Not sure. Um, so I'll have to kind of look into that and um, see what I can kind of do there. You know what? I could really use um, a chest. Oh, iron bars. Gotcha. Um, guess I'll need to just kind of grab a chest. Now, one thing that I'm gonna say about this particular weapon here is the fact that I think the modifier, like there are like the lazy copper short sword there. I think that's probably what kind of caused it to basically crash on its tooltip. Because I believe there was a modifier on this particular sword, and because I was trying to, you know, change things around or trying to find my first sword, or yeah, my first sword was kind of as a, um, looking for, the item in question. Because there was a modifier there, it couldn't really see it and therefore kind of crashed on that, I think. I'm just speculating right at this moment in time. I'm not 100% sure about it. So that's all. But okay, we're going to go ahead and kind of we're going to go ahead and call it here. Um, you know, I've spent a long time. I've already spent more than enough time trying to work on this, but obviously I got into some tangents there. Um, hopefully you guys don't mind. Um, but we're gonna go ahead and stop this portion. We're gonna switch on over to Warframe and play some games there. Um, but that's going to be it for this session. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. I want to thank Kirito and Tank Gaming for being here and chatting with me. Appreciate it. Kirito, I'll address your questions in the Warframe video, so 1 second. Um, but you know, yeah, we're just going to go ahead and switch on over to um, Warframe here, and I want to thank everybody that was watching. Appreciate it. Even if you were just kind of lurking in the background, thank you for being here. Um, we'll keep on going on the um, coding development session, so we'll keep on doing a daily. So stay tuned for more progress on that. If you have any kind of tips and tricks, then feel free to leave them out as a comment. But that's going to be it for tonight for this session of the Terraria modding. So thank you very much for watching. I appreciate it. Hope I catch you next time. But until then, take care. Have a good night. Stay healthy. Stay safe. I'll catch you strangers next time.